So guys, I'm going to do a quick intro to my man, Derek Andersen, CEO and founder of Startup Grind. So Derek has spent the past 10 years building communities, right? He is the co-founder and CEO of Baby, a software as a service product that helps companies like Salesforce, Atlassian, Asana, Duolingo. Hotspot too, right? Yeah. So he helped them to build a virtual and in-person communities. Derek is the Derek co-founded Startup Grind, a community of 600 chapters in 125 countries, designed to educate, inspire, and connect startup people. Since 2012, Startup Grind has hosted 10,000 events for more than 250,000 people. In 2010, he co-founded Common, which was acquired by Income.com. Nice, man. I didn't know that.
Big deal.
Yeah. Derek also previously worked at Electronic Arts on games like Burnout and The Sims 3. Oh, man. My mom plays Sims 3 all the time. He currently lives in Palo Alto.
Thank you. Thank your mom for her money sometime.
Nice.
EA really needs it.
So you have Derek Andersen. Is not only a great entrepreneur, he's a great person.
Thank you.
Welcome, man.
Thank you, Luca. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Wow. I don't even know how to react to the last 10 minutes of the first 10 minutes of this event, but I feel very welcomed. In the history of Startup Grind, we've done about 15,000 events, and I haven't been to an in-person event like most people in the last year and a half, and I've been to 3 now in the last 2 weeks. And every single one, I got something out of it and remembered how great it is to go and meet other people and how important it is to building a company to just get out of the building, as Steve Blank calls it, who wrote the book 4 Steps to the Epiphany, which was really pivotal for me. I've been thinking the last couple of days what I could share. I'm going to just talk for about 10 minutes, and then Luca and I are just going to talk for a little bit. But I thought I would just talk a little bit about. I wished actually earlier in my entrepreneur career, I wish I'd kept a really simple journal. Like I wish every day I'd just take like less than 5 minutes, like even like 1 minute, and just write like 5 bullets, 10 bullets of things that had happened. Because sometimes today it's hard to remember what those days were like, and they're so hard, right? The stage you're at, it's so freaking hard. And what I have learned from everybody that I meet, the thing that's not different from you or me or anybody else, one of my board members owns an NBA team, okay? And this is the thing that you and me and he have in common. We all have problems. Everybody has problems. And we all have problems with our businesses. We all have problems with our families, with ourselves. We all have things we're working on. We all have things we're struggling with. And it's good to really track the progress, because sometimes even your stage, 3 months, 4 months, it can seem like you're trying to push this huge ball up a hill, and it's just like falling back on you all the time, all day, every day. My wife says, I don't think this is a compliment when she says this, but she says, I know how you get so much work done. It's because I wake up in the middle of the night and you're working in your sleep. You're literally talking about work. So it's like, right? Can you relate to that? Where like you wake up in the morning, you roll over, you check your email, you're like, oh man, I wish something good would come in. And then you get in the shower, you check your email, and then you work, and then you finish the day and you have some dinner, and then you start working again. And anybody have kids? Yeah, I have. Yeah, go parents. Populating the earth. Congrats. So I have 4 kids, 12. You have 4? What's up? You have triplets? That's like 8. How many of them are girls? 3 boys. Okay. That's a little easier. I have 2 boys, a 12 and a 9, and I have 2 girls, a 7 and a 4. And my 7-year-old, this little girl, she's like the CEO of the house. We all work for her. She's like a mixture of like, Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, and Kim Jong-un all in one. But, and this is why I say like, no matter what stage you're at, you're gonna have problems. You're gonna have issues. And so what I would really encourage you to think about now, while some things are crazy, but if you're successful, if you achieve what you hope to do, and I don't know all of you, but I know, cause I've been at this room with, I know a lot of people actually in this room, through Startup Grind, but also I've known a lot of people like you. I am you. I have been you. I'm just a few years ahead. And, but the thing that I would really encourage you to do now while you still have time, like, is to really figure out who and where and why you're doing what you're trying to do. And what I mean by that is I'm going to refer to a book by a guy named Clay Christensen who passed away early last year. Maybe one of the top business thinkers, or if not the top business thinker in the world. And he wrote a book that he's famous for, which is Innovator's Dilemma, which talks about disruption. You probably all, anytime you hear the word disruption, it's from Clay. But the other book that he wrote that you probably haven't heard about as much is called How Do You Measure Your Life? And what he talks about in the book is 3 things. He talks about that he went to Harvard, and he went to Harvard with all these amazing people, right? The most intelligent people in the world, or so they'll tell you every time they see you. And he left, everybody left, and then they came back. And at the 5-year reunion, everybody's there. And then at the 10, most people were there. And then at the 20 and the 30, like a lot of people aren't showing up. And it's like, well, where are these people? And he starts asking around. It's like, well, actually, like so-and-so, like, they've had a great career, but they've ruined their family. Like kids hate them, wife left them, like, because, it's just a bad situation. And what he realized is that here you have all these really, really intelligent people, all these really, really driven people. And at the end of it, like, they never created a strategy for actually who they wanted to become. It's really easy to get satisfaction from work because you can just go and send an email and you get somebody to reply, you set up a meeting, or you get a customer. Like, it's like this instant gratification it's hard to get going, but once you get going, it's really easy to get sort of stuck on that thing and like it's like a drug. But, at least for me, when I left my job at EA in 2009, in the middle of the recession, my wife, had just had our son. He was 6 weeks old, and I quit my job. And I quit because really of 2 reasons. 1, I wanted to be creative, and 2, I wanted to take care of my family. And so as I have gone over the years, and now I've been in lots of cycles, lots of failures, and a couple of things that have had some success. But at the end of it, basically, like, what is the point? And for me, the point is to take care of my family, and what Clay says is that if you want to actually, like, the things that matter, building and creating and having a great career, like, that's important. That it feels really good. That's important to a lot of us. I know it's really important to everyone here and me. But actually, the things that will bring you real joy is actually, it's other things. And so you can have great joy from work, but at the end of it, and I think probably a lot of people are saying, well, hey, I'm in this to take care of my family or to get my family to the next spot. That's a one common denominator I found across people all across the world. I've lived 8 years outside the U.S. I lived in the UK, in France, in Frankfurt, and Switzerland, and New Zealand, and the Cook Islands. And the thing that is the same about everybody all around the world is people just want to feed their kids. They want to take care of their kids. And even if you don't have kids, relate to somebody else that you love. But the thing with us entrepreneurs that's very difficult is if we're not careful, And what I have found interviewing dozens and maybe 100 entrepreneurs over the years is that if you're not careful, you'll be very successful and you'll ruin all the reasons why you actually started doing it. And so there's a few people, to me, we talk a lot in our industry about unicorns. And unicorns is when you build a $1 billion business. But actually, from my experience and the people that I have met, the real unicorns are the people that build a $1 billion, scale their business and also scale themselves and who they are as people at the same time without completely ruining who they are. It's very, very hard. And almost nobody does it. And so what I would encourage you to do is take Clay's advice, read his book, but build a strategy. You're building a business strategy, build these other strategies. Or what will happen is you'll wake up in 5 or 10 or 15 years, and this is what he says. You'll wake up in 5 or 15 years and you'll realize, wow, the things that I was doing this for, I've just gotten totally off path because I didn't create a strategy for that. And, I say this not because I'm some great example of it. I say this because this helps remind me that deep down, this is why I'm doing it. And so I'm sharing with you, maybe it's helpful to you, but also because I want to make myself accountable. And as I talk about it, I don't like hypocrites. And as I make myself accountable to you, it reminds me that this is why I'm actually here. It's not the money. It's not, it's not the Twitter followers. It's not whatever the other things are. Of course, I want to be successful. Of course, I want my company to become valuable. Of course, I wouldn't be here if not. But ultimately, those aren't the things that I'm going to be thinking about. Hopefully, at the end of my life, and saying, "Wow, I'm glad I made a little more money." It's going to be, man, I'm so glad that my kids still like me. Hopefully, my wife still loves me. Hopefully, I created and helped people along the way. And so just make a plan for that now while you're early and you have time, and really try to deeply figure out what the right thing is for you. And it's probably totally different than what's right for me. So with that, that's all I got.
I'm excited. Are you excited, Derek?
I am. I love this room. I've been in this room so many times. I've interviewed people on this stage. I love this room. And I know the beanbags, Draper's great. Isn't Draper just great? It's great.
Yeah.
It's a really great program. And the thing I love about Draper that's so different from most people in the Valley is that they genuinely care about people everywhere. And they haven't just been doing this the last, year or two or whatever, but they've always cared about people everywhere. And before it was cool to care about everyone outside of Silicon Valley, they've always, really championed entrepreneurs outside the Valley, women, people of color. Draper Draper U is a great example of the best of Silicon Valley and trying to really share that information, knowledge with people around the world. So let's give it up for Draper.
Yeah. So Derek, I remember the last year we were here, right? That was my first time here.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we did this Director Summit. So there is a lot of entrepreneurs here. They know a little bit about your story, but we're going to go deep about it. The Startup Grind is huge. And I think that the first question is, how did you create such a large community, having presence in so many countries and some great sponsors, partners, the team and everything?
Well, a lot of good ideas, Startup Grind just was not ever something that we thought was going to be big. It filled a void. And I left EA and I just invented a startup. And maybe some of you have done that with your current company. That's okay. You can pivot. But I invented a startup. My co-founder didn't quit his job. I did. And I'm working on this thing that I wasn't passionate about. It wasn't a real problem. I couldn't get anyone to buy it. So I pivoted, and then I pivoted again. And then along the way, I started hosting events in my office because I was trying to get educated and learn. I was making all these mistakes. And over the next year and a half, it turned out while I was still building products that nobody liked, people liked the events way more than they liked what we were building. And so eventually a mentor that really was influential, and we went to breakfast one morning. I was frustrated. He's like, I don't know about the product that you have, but this Startup Grind thing is really people like it. I don't know why, but like they do. And so he's like, why don't you spend a little more time on it? And so I did. And then slowly, like, and then I had somebody in the audience come up to me and say, hey, like, I love the values. I love the brand. Like the values are about giving more than you take, helping others first, and making friends. He's like, I really love that. We need this in Los Angeles. I was like, you must have 20 of these in Los Angeles. He's like, we don't have any. I was like, that's crazy. So I was like, we'll try it. He talked me into it. I thought it was a terrible idea. Talked me into it. We did it and it worked. And then that just from there, it was like you spend 10% and you spend 15. And you're probably in this where you're like juggling so many balls, right? Like right now, like you have to juggle balls. But the goal is not to do 5 different things. You look like it doesn't look good. That's not what you want. You want to do one thing. But in the beginning, you got to do 5 and you slowly just start dropping balls. That aren't that valuable, that aren't proving anything, and slowly it was just like startup grind. And then it went from 10% of our time, 2% to 10 to full time. And that's where it started to grow. It really had this organic, sort of momentum.
125 countries, man. It's crazy. Yeah. So I think it's an important question is that now that a lot of entrepreneurs here are pretty early. And one thing they really love about us is the full team, all the directors, they all have great spirit, great personality. They are all very kind. And I think it's not that easy, man. Like the same with the Draper University staff. I mean, how you did it? How was the process in order to get the perfect team, Madeleine, Finn, all of them?
Well, I was really lucky in that early on, I had someone who attended one of the events, just like this. I interviewed him. And after the event, he called me. He's this very well-known investor. And he called me and he said, can we have lunch? I really enjoyed that. And I was like, yes, please. If you have time, I would love to have lunch. And we met and he's like, we sat there in his office and he's like, do you understand what's special about Startup Grind? It's the values. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, and he said them. He said, it's about giving more than you take. It's about helping. It's about friends. I was like, well, yeah, obviously. And he's like, yeah, but don't you get it? Like, it's so unique. It's so special. And so I went back to my garage and like, I wrote them down and we put them on the website that day. And then that just became this magnet for really good people, like the people you just described. And I mean, like, again, we drove people to the website, but then when they saw it, they were like, that's me. I want to be part of that. Or they said, which is kind of what I say about them, which is like, I aspire to those things. Like, I'm not the most helpful person. I don't give the most, but like, I want to be that person. So like, it became this one of those lights, that the bugs come towards. And we just attracted this kind of people that we wanted. And that's really what early stage is all about. You're trying to get 3 or 4 people who you can get sort of one heart, one mind with, and that will do heroic feats for your startup to get it. That's what it feels like in the early days, right? It's just one heroic feat after another. Does it feel like that for anybody? Like the only way you'll get there is like you just like have to do something crazy, and then like you do it, and you're like, I did that. It's like I got to do something crazy again to get it to the next step. And I mean, I'm 11 years in. I'm doing that constantly still. Heroic feat after heroic feat. And even with a big team, it's big for me. We have 175 people at Bevy. We have 20 at Startup Grind. So, that doesn't ever go away. But the early 3 or 4 people are like, they're everything. Like they could ruin the whole thing. Every single one of them can ruin the whole startup, or they could like do these incredible feats of strength and like get you to the next level where you wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah, culture is very important. Like you have to create it from scratch. I think that what you have done in Startup Grind is super important. All the team is lovely, man. I really love it. So let's go. I know that there are a lot of entrepreneurs here. Some of them are doing community things. So what is like your advice in order to scale a community, in order to grow? I know that the Startup Grind grow organically, but what's your recommendation for them in order to? Well,
you don't, first of all, today, or maybe it was yesterday, that Duolingo went public. Anybody use Duolingo? It's $200+ million revenue company. Their whole business model is community. Airbnb, if you go read their S1 when they went public, like Brian Chesky talks about how community is like at the core. There's so many companies now that have made community critical, and the way that you build a community is in the beginning. It's very values driven. So you don't need to. It's hard to write them out in the very beginning. So you just kind of need to be aware of it, and you just sort of try to. The values are a reflection of the founders and the early team members, and so you just kind of start reading other people's values. Start looking. How many people here have their values written on their website already done? Yeah, not a lot. Okay, that's more than I would have thought. So, but you want to look. You need to find people that can meet the basic minimum, requirements for an early stage startup. But then, like, are they like us? Are they going to work like us? Are they going to think like us? And that's where the values come in. And so you just, with employees or with customers, like, it's one at a time. Just like go get 5. Like with Bevy, we built the product for Startup Grind. It was working for Startup Grind, and then one of the first people I talked to asked if he could buy it. And so we're like, oh, cool, we could sell this. That would be cool. And I was like, well, how much? He's like, I don't know, it's your product. Like, you tell me, how much will you charge? I was like, I don't know, how about like $20,000 a year? He's like, yeah, for sure, I'd pay that. I was like, really? Dang it. I should ask for more. So the next person, like, I try to ask for 40, and they're like, what? I never played 40. It's like 8. Like, dang it, this is confusing. But like, you find 1, and then you find 2, and then you find 3, and like, it's really going after the 1. And at some point, like, you'll have enough time and resources and energy to do it inside the product, and hopefully at some level of scale. But I love non-scale. I mean, Paul Graham always talks about that, and I love that philosophy, which is, do things that don't scale. It's like, eventually you can scale, but like, we even still, like, I'm doing 50 hours of customer calls this summer. 50 hours. Think like all the things that I probably already have on my calendar. I'm gonna find 50 hours to talk to my customers. The first thing I say to them in all these calls? Anybody want to guess? First thing I say to my customers on the call. What? Thank you. That's the first thing I say. Thank you so much for trusting us. We know we have issues. We know we have problems. We know, like, you're patient with us, but thank you for trusting us. They get to hear it from me. Is it meaningful? I don't know. I hope so. Like, it feels like it. Feels like we gave ourselves a little more time, and I mean it genuinely. We're nothing without them. But that came from the first 2, 3, 4, 5 customers. It's just one at a time. You get 20, then you get 40, then you get 100, then you get 200, then you get, and that may be employees, customers, everybody. But you just start to, it's like Pokemon cards. You just start to get, accumulate those cards, you kind of put them in, it's maybe a bad analogy. Don't collect people. That's illegal. And if you thought about doing that, there's something wrong with you. No, but you just like try and win one person at a time. And eventually it adds up to a lot of people over many months, many years, and decades.
Wow, great. Thank you, Derek, for that. I think that another important question is, most of us are international entrepreneurs, right? And we all have this perspective about Silicon Valley and everything, So the question is, how do you describe the Silicon Valley mindset, and how the international founders right here can take advantage of that?
Well, the values of Startup Grind are Silicon Valley-esque values of giving first. Like, you wouldn't believe the people I've been introduced to meet, and I didn't earn it, but like and I know in a lot of cultures and a lot of places, it's not, even in the United States, it's just not, like, you can't go meet with somebody and they'll introduce you to their best contact. That's not a common thing. But it doesn't always happen here. But like, people will genuinely, there's a high percentage of people that genuinely will just help. If you seem like a high quality person, if you seem like, you have the right intentions. I remember I was working on like a LinkedIn kind of product, and somebody introduced me to one of the LinkedIn co-founders. I didn't even hardly know the person. It was like the most coolest meeting I ever had at the time. He made me buy lunch, which I thought was weird, because I didn't have any money, and he was the founder of LinkedIn. But it's not a big deal. It's only been 10 years. I still am talking about it. But like that, I think like just that help first, you know, Brazilians are that way. You guys are fun, helpful people. Not everybody from Brazil, but it's kind of in the culture, you know, like it's just like, that's the culture here. Like you gotta help. If you can't help, like it's like, hey, I need money. Like that's, you know, that old adage of like ask for help and ask for money and get advice, ask for advice, get money. But still like how can someone help you? And if you think deeply about it, even cold emails, most of the people I've interviewed over the years, all cold emails. And then like when I actually needed something, if I've reached out, almost 100% of them will help me. And maybe I know what to ask, or like usually it's just, can I get on the phone for 10 minutes? I'm dealing with something really hard. I've had very like billionaires who I didn't know very well, who I met one time at Startup Grind, and who thought they had a high quality experience with me, who I say like, hey, can I get 10 minutes? I'm really struggling with something, and get on the phone with me the next morning, like from the middle of the night to the next morning on the phone. That's pretty rare. And maybe you all coming here, you can say like, I can be that person wherever I live and wherever I'm from, and I can change the culture one person at a time, and you will become a very important person locally very fast because you'll really stand out.
Yeah, I think that's something, well, last year, my first time here, when I left Venezuela, I went to Chile. It was hard to connect with people, no? Yeah. It's like in the ecosystem there, they have a different point of view or whatever. So I actually started making contacts when I created Startup Grind, when I became the director there. But when I came over here to Silicon Valley last year for the event, the global event, and I was so nervous. I thought like, in Chile, everyone was hard to meet people. In United States, it's going to be worse. But I started like reaching people in LinkedIn, like crazy people that you never imagine they're going to open the door. Nico Bonazzos. Now I speak with him every month in your event. Justin Kahn, all of them. I mean, it's amazing. People have that mindset in order to help and provide value. Obviously, I always do like try to go in LinkedIn, Apollo, write to the people, provide value first, and then ask. I think that's the best way to go, right?
I think the most successful people that I've met, they always, the door is always, it always opens. It doesn't mean they let everything in. You know, there's a difference. Like, but this is where like the most successful people I know, they read their email, all their emails, and they'll respond within minutes, even in the middle of the night sometimes. Very successful people. And that's frankly like, that's why I come to things like this, which I don't really do. But I selfishly, I do it because, well, one, because Luca asked me to. So like, if he says it, I got to do it. I really appreciate Draper. But selfishly for me, I know that like every time I come to one of these at Draper U, like I meet interesting people. And I don't know where the next great idea is going to come from. So I'm coming here and maybe I can be of use to you. That's what I hope first I can give something. And then maybe in some way, like I'll meet somebody or hear something that like sparks an idea in my head. And then I'll drive home 30 minutes and like I'll work on it tonight and think, oh, that's a cool idea. Like maybe we should be thinking about something in a different way, or, you know, something like that. And I find that even the most successful people, like they've realized the next great idea could be literally from anyone. And if you're not open to that, at least to listen, then you don't have a fully growth mindset, you know, type of, you know, personality.
Yeah, for sure, Derek. I think that, well, tomorrow we have to go, you know our activity tomorrow? No. We have to go to San Francisco and we can't come back until we have a job, a real job. Can you give me the job now, please? Can you sign the document? Is that possible, Sophia?
You have to like go, you take your resume and you have to go get somebody to give you a job.
And
offer letter and salary. Does it have to be a tech job or just any job?
Any job.
Wow. It reminds me of a David Chappelle skit, which I'm not going to talk about, but some of you may remember that one. Wow, that should be really interesting. Please film all of it. And put it all online. That sounds amazing.
We already sold condoms in the middle of the downtown of San Francisco. That was crazy enough. But I heard that
Congrats. Oh, you should all be so proud. Oh, they were expired. Great. This has been a really valuable, wonderful program, I can tell.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's go deep about your new venture, Bevy, or B-Bike. How should you pronounce that?
Yeah, Bevy.
Bevy, great. Thank you. I'm learning English, man. So it's your newest venture.
Your English is really coming along well.
Yeah, really? You remember last year?
Your English is perfect.
Yeah, man. So tell me about Bevy, how you started, what it's about.
Bevy helps companies build community through events. And we help you do it at scale for all of your customers. So if you think about events is one of the best marketing channels that you can have to build customers and both build loyalty in existing customers or get new customers. And so what we do with events is like we make it so it's not just a conference or one virtual event or a webinar, but actually you can turn the event into something that happens not just one day, but 365 days of the year. And you can use your customers to help you in that effort and enrich their lives while you also help build up your company and your brand. And so we do that with companies like Salesforce and Google and NASA and Snowflake and I mentioned Harvard also. We work with them.
Nice, man. I think that maybe it's exciting. So this guy just raised $44 million, right?
44 billion, is that what you said?
Million.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's close. Yeah.
It's great. A big applause for him. So we just had demo day a few days ago. We all want to raise cash. So can you tell about your journey raising capital, your first 8 millions and then the 40s? And what would you recommend to everyone here, please?
The only way I've ever been able to raise money is because I had traction that deserved it. And so I'm not really good at selling things that I don't really believe in. And the only way to get me to believe in it is to see the proof. And once I see the proof, I'm really good at selling it. But until then, I'm very skeptical because I've failed so many times. And so, when the first round we did, we had about 250,000 in revenue, which it doesn't sound like very much, and then it sounds like a lot too, to have that much money and not rate that much revenue and not 250,000 annually. So whatever that is monthly, but we had a couple of big customers, and everyone was in startup grind. I had 8 engineers on the team, and literally it was 6 weeks from running out of cash. I sat down with my wife on the couch late one night. I said, like, I'm probably like we could lose everything. And to her great credit, she's amazing and been so supportive and like an incredible co-founder. She's like, just go, you got to figure it out, like get to work. So I stayed up till 2 or 3 in the morning. I sent out probably 24 emails. These emails that I was mentioning to you were some of those. And by the next day at noon, I went from like, I'm going to run out of money in 6 weeks and I have 20 employees to I had soft commitments from a couple of people. And I had some really good interviews set up. And I had one investor who said, I can't invest because I've invested in a competitor, but they're really big and they're looking to acquire somebody. Do you want to talk to them? So like in like just 24 hours, like it was such a miracle. And then, but to do that, like I'd spent 10 years building relationships. So it was like one of those, like you spend 10 years building relationships, helping. And then you come in an hour of need at the right time with the right thing, and people were there to help me. So I raised $1 million. I didn't want to raise. We could have raised a little more. We wanted to raise as little as possible because didn't want to get too diluted. That's something you should all be reading a lot about because you can give away basically your whole company in the first 3 years, and so you got to be very vigilant about protecting your stock. Your stock is gold. Like, don't give stock to people that will not treat it like gold. And a lot of people don't value stock, and both founders and non-founders. So anyways, we took 10%. We raised $1 million. We said the company's worth $10 million is the number I made up, and we took 10% dilution. Then we went the next year. We got more customers. We didn't really grow the team because we We couldn't afford to. We had 8 people. And then finally I got Salesforce as a customer. And I knew when I closed that deal, it was a very hard deal. I knew when I closed the deal I could raise funding. Like that was the moment. That was what was hard. It wasn't the funding, it was that. And so we closed them. We raised $5 million the next month. I was already talking to people, but it was like that moment, it was like, we got it. And then we went, a couple more years, and then we hit more milestones of growth, revenue. And then we raised $15 million. And then we had the pandemic, and then more recently, we raised $40 million. I honestly, like, the things I'm most proud of are the customer contracts and the renewals. We renewed Epic Games yesterday. They've been with us for 2 years, I think, but we renewed them again. I'm so proud of that, more than any other deal we did this month. Even though they're already a customer, but I'm just like, again, like, I know what it's like not to have customers. It's really hard to get them. And so anyways, that's where I've always focused on: customers, revenue, traction, and then the money. It's not easy, but like that's the hard part. The money should flow if you have those things sort of starting to line up.
I think the traction is the most important one, yes. It's not that easy to get, but when you close the big deals, that's when the investing come easily, right? It's a great journey. I didn't know about it. You almost ran out of business and everything, so that's great, man. Really went hard on that, no?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you can relate to that. You're maybe dealing with that right now. Like, I've been on death's door. I've been on death's door twice. And both times we were done. And we were looking for jobs. This is before Startup Grind took off. Like one time, I put all my money in this product. Nobody liked it. Like we had 70,000 users, but like nobody really liked it. And I told my co-founder, I said, look, man, I'll go get you a job. I'll help you find a job. Then we'll get back together in like 6 months. We'll try again. And I was going to shut down all of our I was going to shut down the website because I just couldn't afford the services. It was like $500 a month. And literally the only way I compare to it is like, like literally like you're standing, I think of like being in Death Valley, which is like, or the Salt Flats in Utah. It's just like nothing. And like death is standing in front of you. And like we stood there and we stared at him. And then we're like, we're not going to die right now. And we found a way to survive. And he turned and walked away. And like we sold the company that we were in. Like it was being shut down and we sold it. Not for a lot, but for enough to get another year. And like when I did that deal, like that's the greatest I've ever done. And from there, like from that moment, and hopefully you'll feel this at some point. Hopefully you don't have to get to that point, but undoubtedly you will. And you'll have to decide. And sometimes it's the right thing to do is to shut it down and to die and to not ruin your family and to like go lick your wounds and fight another day. Sometimes that's the right move. And sometimes it's just to like grit your teeth and like get ready for some really rough waves and buckle down and get through it. And every entrepreneur I've ever interviewed like has to deal with that thing. And I'll tell you, nothing has ever been more scary to me than that. Ever since anything. Like it's all been easier. That was the scariest moment. And I had nothing to lose. It was me and my co-founder. That was it. I was just so embarrassed. I was going to have to go back and get my job. Like my people that doubted me would have been right. Like I'd used all of our money. Like so embarrassed. And then like we got through it. And like everything honestly has been pretty easy since then.
Yeah, I feel pretty related to your story. You know what? I told you my story, what happened and everything. So that's great, man. I'm very happy for you. And I think that another thing important, because most of us are international founders, and the whole fact about the diversity and everything, I think we all feel like a barrier in order to go out and try to raise money. What do you recommend to international founders to trying to raise money? What are the first doors that they should knock? How they can break those barriers? Like
while you're here or when you go back home or both?
While you're here. Now that I'm here in the Draper University.
How many of you have products that are live? How many of you are still working on a product trying to get it live? Okay. How many of you have raised funding? Okay. most like less, like few hundreds of thousands of dollars, or million, lower, kind of in that range. Is that sort of right? Higher? A couple people, mostly lower. Okay. I mean, the difficult thing is you have such limited time. I know some of you are staying later with the program. Some of you are going back sooner. You know, I think if you could try to say to yourself, like, how much longer are people here for?
2 extra weeks, right?
2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay. I think if you try to say to yourself, like, if there are 3 people that I could meet that could dramatically help my business, who would they be? Not like the people we all want to meet. Like, oh, if I just met the founder of Google, you know, my problems would go away. He'd sweep me up off my feet, save me. Like, real people that could actually help you, that actually you could probably get to. And I would like spend the next 2 weeks. I'd stay up late tonight and I'd craft 3 really thoughtful emails, for each of them, really short, you know, really targeted with a short ask at the top. Like, here's the problem I'm dealing with. Can I get you for 12 minutes to talk to you about it? They'll probably give you 30. And then get on the phone with them. Whatever you do, don't ask for money. Just show them what you're doing. Show them what you're thinking about. Have really, really thoughtful questions. Like, quickly show them. Show them in like 2 minutes, and then have like 15 questions for them, and just run out of time asking questions, and end that meeting right on time, because busy people don't like it when you take more of their time unless they give it to you. So, like, end it a minute early. Keep saying, oh, I only have 2 minutes left. I only have 4 minutes left. I want to make sure I'm on time. Like, let them know you're a high quality person, that you care, that you're thoughtful. And then when you get out of that, you may be surprised. They might say, how can I help you? And you should have something that they could help you with, and you should say it back. Or you should, if they don't say it, you should say to them, how can I help you? And they'll be probably surprised you said that. And then they might ask it back if they haven't already. And then have a very simple ask to get you to the next step. Maybe to introduce you to one of their friends that you know is their friend, that you've already done the research, that you know they're close to. It's not going to be a big problem. And that, hey, I really need to meet this person to get to here. Do you think they'd meet with me for 12 minutes? And they might say, yeah, I can help. I would just find 3 people and start there and see where that goes. And that might lead to connections and relationships. If somebody in those 3, you might find one that you find you are close to, you know, that you build some rapport with, and then stay in touch with them.
Yeah, I
start
think
from
that
there.
last year too, I just reached one investor in LinkedIn before coming here, and I just created a relationship with him. And then he was the guy who put me in front of Team Draper and a lot of things. He always connects me with people, so you never know when you reach someone. They all are open to help you here in the Valley. That's a good part, right? So what he telling you guys is great value. You should do it in order to look for the right investors while you're here. I think that some of the big things about, you know, being an entrepreneur and everything here, you in the Valley, all your experience, Derek, what is the best advice that you will give them as a early stage entrepreneurs? The best one.
It's not very original. Like, stay in the game. Don't give up. Like, the moment you give up, like, there's 0% chance of success. So, like, you just have to find a way to survive long enough to find success. That's really what success is. Some people get lucky and they find it quickly. I'm an optimist, and I really do believe that everyone gets a shot. It may not be exactly what you dream of, but you can get a shot for your ideas, your projects to become a reality, and like to have success with it. It may be inside of another company. It may be that you find somebody along the way that's doing a better job and you should join them. That may be part of bringing your ideas to fruition. It might be that you're the second founder or the second employee at WhatsApp, you know, or maybe that you're the CEO, or maybe that you start as the CEO and then you realize you're not the right person to be the CEO and your co-founder should, or somebody else should. But the people that I found that are not successful are the ones that give up. So I would just, like, whatever you can do, try to find a way to stretch as long and hard as you can. Set it up with your spouse or your partner, with your family, with your parents or who's ever like in your corner, so that you don't paint yourself in a corner where you have to give up or you're going to jeopardize all the other things that we talked about earlier. But just stay in the game. It's going to take our doctors in the United States, 8 years of school. Is anybody in their country, doctors have to go longer to school than the U.S.? No? Anybody? More than 8? Anybody? 15? Okay, think about what kind of doctor. It's like a specialist, a surgeon or something. Think about that. 15 years to become a surgeon. In where? In Armenia. Wow. So think about that. We're so arrogant as entrepreneurs that we think we should be successful in 2 or 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I know. I thought that. I thought I should be on the cover of Inc. magazine in the first year. It seemed obvious. It's ridiculous. Like, it was true. I really believe that. And now I realize, like, it doesn't matter, actually. Like, those lists and that stuff, like, it doesn't. Customer is the only thing that matters. But I had to learn that the hard way. But, like, think about that. Like, I'm 12 years in. 12 years. It's long. I'm almost a surgeon in Armenia. I've got 3 more years to go. So, like, be patient with yourself. It'll come. But you got to learn. You got to become an expert. You've got to learn. You got to make the mistakes. And just find a way to survive long enough to find success.
Yeah, man. That's great. Great value, man, there. We're finalizing. I want you to let them know what is the new membership of Startup Grind and the call to action to the global event next month in February 2022.
Startup Grind's mission is just to educate and support every entrepreneur and startup in the world. So, we can't do it in such a high quality way as Draper University is doing it here right now with you. But once you leave and once you go back in the world, hopefully you can find a local Startup Grind community where you live. And this may be another thing, like build those relationships the next 2 weeks. And then maybe you come back in February, end of February when we do our conference, can get involved in some way. Assuming we're going to be in person, who knows, right? We canceled it last year. And we're figuring it out like everybody else. We'll see what happens, but we're planning to do it here and just down the street at the end of February. And so, but we have a membership program that just connects startups and entrepreneurs, and we, offer lots of support for that. So if you're an early stage startup, once you get to a certain place, and then you just kind of have to focus on everything you're doing. But in the beginning, right, like you're talking to lots of people, you're looking for ideas, you're looking for people. This is good for the early stage companies. And then when you graduate, we can start to help you from there as well.
Nice. I heard that all the Draper University students get some discounts for the global events.
Great. Let's do it. Done.
Some free tickets.
Whatever.
For my best friends. Just for my best friends.
Sure.
So you know who they are. Yeah. Last question. Now you can make your questions, okay? So, Derek, your definition of success as a person.
Yeah, I said it before, which is like my wife loves me, my kids love me. Like I haven't lost my soul. Work in progress. Dating advice? Been out the game too long. It's interesting because I've talked to some other. I can't say that I just have talked to a few other founders whose spouses are a lot like my spouse, which is interesting. Which is like, my spouse, my wife is just very patient. She's what should I say? She's very chill. She doesn't like react to, the craziness of my startup. I'm the high maintenance person in the relationship. She's extremely just mellow and goes with it and is a great listener. And she can just deal with a lot of chaos without reacting to it. And that's basically been my professional life the last 12 years. Her father was an engineer who's had the same job his whole life. So imagine, like, I start telling her, like, I want to quit. You probably some of you have had the same experience with your partner. Like, I got to do it. I don't know. Like, I got to do it. I'm like, I can't sleep. And 6 weeks, like I said, 6 weeks after we had our first son, I quit. And so you got to like find people that are signed up for what you're doing. And you can't force that, and so if you're in a relationship and they didn't sign up for that, it's really hard. But I know a lot of people that had really good startup ideas who their spouse basically said, like, it's us or that. And to their credit, they chose the more important thing. But that's really hard. So look for somebody that will be able to, like, be in the fire with you, because they're literally next to you on the roller coaster. And some people didn't sign up for that. So.
While building a global community, what have you found is the most kind of effective way to bridge all kind of your team worldwide, as well as the community and the entrepreneurs in your community? How do you kind of bring everyone together?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many great tools to use online now to talk and to chat. And, we use Slack a lot for basically every project that I work on, every team that I'm on, I'm in Slack. I think there's a lot of little things you can do, like just be thoughtful, be kind, like, celebrate the wins with people. Like, I just think, like, just try to be human and try to be authentic and kind and, and present. And, my co-founder, we tried to get him an H-1B visa. We couldn't. So he's from Portugal. So, like, I went down, I like did it all manually myself, didn't work. So then we had to be remote. That was like 2013. It's like we were a remote team because that was what we had to do. And you kind of have to figure it out. We never had a lot of money, because we were bootstrapped. Startup Grind's still bootstrapped, 8 years payroll. Never missed payroll in 8 years. I'm more proud of that than any amount of money I've ever raised. So, like, you got to figure out, we'd do retreats, we'd get together, try to bridge the communication barriers, and then, just try to be kind. I thought we're on life's journey together. We might as well have fun and enjoy it, and help each other along the way.
So my question is about building communities. We've been building communities in the Las Vegas area for about 12 years. You guys actually considered us, myself as the director of the Las Vegas chapter back in 2020. Madeline's great, by the way. But when the pandemic happened, that's when things really shifted. And that's when founder grit started to come out. I know for us, we went on the road, we went to events, we met people, we started building these offline, off-grid communities. Can you explain some of the stuff that you may have done over the last 18 months to continue your community that weren't social media, Zoom, Slack? Like, what did you do to hold this thing together when, the entire world said you can't do it?
Yeah, I mean, actually, we were so anti-virtual event before COVID. Like, we refused to let people do virtual events. We did in January of 2020, we did 300, maybe 250 in-person events. And actually, I was really shocked at actually how much community you can build through virtual. And we do this with Bevy. That's what our whole platform is now, is in-person and virtual events. So look, actually, I don't know that I did a lot to help a lot of people, honestly, last year. That's something I'm really disappointed in myself with. I just kind of worked like crazy. I worked harder than I've ever worked. Maybe some of you did too. I've had some rough years working, but last year we just were building product. We're building this virtual product to keep some of these communities alive. Some we didn't save. I heard about one today we're going to lose that I got as a customer like 4 years ago. COVID killed him. But people like communities like Startup Grind, I mean, we went from doing no virtual events to hundreds in like, hundreds a month, 300. I mean, I think we'll do 300 virtual events, last month, or maybe it was this month as well. But like, so it's different. And it doesn't sound like we did anything nearly as helpful as sort of the things you're doing. I think getting in and trying to help people and go seeing them. And I wish I'd done a lot more of that. I was kind of worried, really focused on myself and our product last year, which I think did end up helping a lot of communities, but there was more we could have done for sure.
I look forward to the next event, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You were talking about the values and the importance of values out there, especially with 4 people or 5 people. Enforcing values is easy. As you grow bigger, how do you enforce or measure values within the team members so that whatever you set up is going to the ground levels?
I just think, like, first of all, I've heard someone say, which I believe is like your culture is sort of starts to cement at like 10 people. So those first 10 are so important, and you can have one parasite in there that just can ruin the whole thing. You got to get them out as fast as you can, so they don't bring the whole thing down. Culturally, not even business wise, just culturally poison it. But I think like it's just an evolution. It's like this thing of saying like just be thoughtful, be intentional. It's a word a lot of people use today. I'll tell you one thing that we have brought into our culture in the last year at Bevy. We had 35 people in the team last spring. And we realized we didn't have a single black person in the whole company. And we were like, what are we doing? This is terrible. Like, how we're building community and we're not even building an equitable community inside of our own company. Like, how hypocritical of us. And so we started to talk about like what we could do. And then George Floyd was killed on May 25th. And then we said, my co-founder and I got on the phone that weekend and said like, enough's enough. Like, we have to do something. And what I realized is like, I can only control 2 things. There's like all this chaos in the world. I can control 2 things. I can control what's happening in my family to a degree, and I can control what's happening in my company. That's all I'm going to worry about. I can't worry about the rest of the world, but I can worry about those. I can fix those 2 things. So I sat down with my kids, and like we watched my little kids. We watched George Floyd's murder. We watched Eric Gardner's murder. We watched little children talking about their experience, little black American children talking about their experience. And we started to have that conversation. And then the next thing we started is, what can we do in the company? And we said, there's 13% of the U.S. population is black. We want to push change ahead. What would that look like? So we said, why don't we push it to 20%? How would we do that? Who's done that? No one. No one's done that. So, so then we just set out to just try. By June, we were 5%, September 10. I said we'd do it in 2 years. And then after the sort of, madness that happened in early January, I just said, we're going to do it this year. Like, let's go. Let's push ahead. And then we raised a round and we said, hey, if we're doing this for our employees, why aren't we doing this for our investors? So we took 20% of the round, and we had 30 black investors, some of the most amazing people in all of tech, invest in our company. And as we sit today, last week we were like 19%. This week we're like 17.5%. It's like a daily thing. We're like, with each person we hire, we're getting closer or further away from that goal. But I share, long story short to say, is like, your culture, like our values didn't change on the website, but like we've introduced something new to our culture that's really important, and it's in line with our values. It's just like building on what we have. And it's not something I would have ever conceived of being important in 2017 when we started our company. So I think like, I don't, like when we talk a lot about values, it's sort of like, it's like, it's very esoteric. It's very nebulous. Like it's hard to grab onto, like what is it exactly? And I just think it's the daily choices that you make that like make people proud to work with you and make you proud to work in your company. And that should evolve and hopefully improve over time. And, this thing that we're doing for racial equality is, to me, it's maybe the most powerful thing that we've ever done. And, I know I didn't understand it before, but we don't have time. We could probably spend hours talking about it, but it is so powerful. And it is like, it's the driver for our talent base. That's not why we did it. We did it because it's the right thing to do, but it actually turns out it's the right business decision. Our business is going to be way more valuable because we're getting so many more. We've opened this whole pool of talent that never would work at Bevy before. Now people are coming to us saying, I want to be with you. You're my kind of people. I saw what you're doing. I have this happen to me like every week. I had it happen to me yesterday. Incredibly talented guy. He can work anywhere he wants. And he said to me, I saw what you're doing. White guy. I saw what you're doing. That's what I want to be part of that. And that's the world I want to create. And so you just, as you're thinking about, now you're at the early stage, it's baby steps, 1, 2, 3. What are the values of the founders? What are the values of the first 10 people? How can we put that in words? Then how can we live that and grow off of that every single day for the next 10 years? And, you might have something special.
Thank you. One last question, please.
Hello. Thanks, Derek, for coming.
Thank you. Where are you from?
I'm from Chile.
Chile.
Yeah. We've been in the entertainment business for the last 15 years. We've been building communities in art, music, technology, and we've seen after the pandemic that there's a huge change, of course, in healthcare, in education, but mainly in governance. And this, in this thing about governance brings everything about the community. And there are some tools coming onto the scene, like giving tokens to the community in order to the community can vote. The DAOs that everyone is talking that there's going to be like a summer of the DAOs. And how everything is changing. Like back in 2005, everything was coming to Silicon Valley, build a startup, funded by a VC, and now everything is going remote. It's a personal runaway and also save money. So the world, you are a global citizen right now. So how is your view about the philosophy of the communities and how everything is going forward? What's your view?
Your question is, sorry, what is your question?
Your vision about how these technology tools will empower the power of the community.
Like where that's going?
Yeah, like the social tokens, that's going to be big in the future.
Well, this is the thing that's going on. We have all these underlying trends. I mean, look, before COVID, people were lonelier than they've ever been. Loneliness epidemic, all time, maybe the history of humankind. What is it like since COVID? Much worse. Does anyone here feel less lonely now than they did before COVID? The one guy. Yeah, well, you hit the road. Okay, so one out of all of us. So look, it's difficult for us as human beings. The good news for you as startups and entrepreneurs is that our companies have this incredible role that they can play in helping to bring the world back together in ways that it is desperately in need of. Here's another stat for you. People today, especially men, but also women, have fewer close friends now by a factor of 15, 20% than they did 30 years ago. Well documented. People don't have close friends. They're lonely. And they're taking their work. They're taking their LinkedIn with them everywhere they go. 7 days a week, we're working. It's part of our identity. You can take your brand. I'm thinking of Duolingo because they just went public. It's people's identity. It's this community of real people that find meaning and belonging. You can create belonging within your brand for customers and people.
Thank you a lot, Derek, for all your time, your value. Really appreciate it. I think that everyone here appreciates it, so thank you a lot.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being here. I have to go home for dinner with my kids, so please forgive me for moving very quickly. I'm Derek@bevy.com, DEREK@bevy.com. It's very easy, or Derek@startupgrind.com. It's the only emails I have. Like, please let me know how I can be helpful. I'm not an investor, so I'm not a good person to ask money for. I don't have a lot of money. But if I can be helpful and you can just, if you're thoughtful about how I can be helpful, if I can't, I can't, but let me know how I can be useful. And if I can, I would love to be helpful. So thanks for being here.
Group picture time.